So next important aspect is when you are trying to deal with a huge amount of data, what happens is you want to get a hang of data or you want to get some sense of data, not really going through all of the data. That is when sampling will come into picture. So in this case, we are talking about a random sampling. We do have a method called sample to do the random sampling. Let us say your data frame has some billions of records. In that case, you want to sample some 10% of it to see what is the variety of the data, what are the different things of the data. That means when you say sample, it is not really going from 1 to some 10 million or 1 to a million. When you say sampling, you may get one record from first 100 records and we may get another record from after 1000 records. That is what the sampling means. We can do the random sampling by using a sample method, but to do that, you need to specify three important factors. One is the seed value, second one is whether you want to do it with a with replacement or not, how much of data you want to sample, is it 50% or what are the percentage you are looking at. So now the seed value is something which is specific to this sampling. Whenever you are trying to do the sampling, you need to provide the seed value. The second one is with replacement. What does it mean? Let us say you have a basket of balls, assuming that one is a red ball, the green balls. Like this, you have some hundreds of balls of different colors. Let us say you want to sample 10 balls out of these 100 balls. In that case, you have two approaches. One option is whatever the ball you are taking, you are keeping it aside. You are not putting that to this particular basket. You take a ball, put it here and you say this is the sample. That is where with replacement is false. But now the one more option would be whenever, see, at the end of the day you are sampling, okay, you took a ball and you recorded this is a this is a green ball and then you put it back. So that is where with replacement comes into picture. When you say false, you are not really replacing it. When you say true, you are replacing it. The fraction is out of 100 balls or what are the billions of records you have, how much percentage of that you want to sample. That is what the fraction means. By specifying all these things, what you can do is you can specify data frame name and sample method, provide all these values as an argument. And you can either store this as a part of one more data frame, or you can just use it for some counting or doing something. It is up to you depending upon your requirement. The next aspect is whenever you are trying to work with the data analysis projects, you tend to split the whole data into two parts. One is training set, the second one is the testing set. To get the data for a testing set, you want to split that into two parts. We can do that by a method called random split. This is, as indicated, useful. You have a huge set of data, you want to break that into two parts depending upon your requirement. You may want to break it into 75% and 25% or 30 and 70%. It depends on your project, the way you want to split the data. We can split the data. Let us say this is we are trying to assign this to one particular data frame where this is a original data frame and we are using a random split method. And we are specifying, give me first set of 25% out of 1000 records. If you want to have some 250 records, then you can specify around 25% here. Another 750 records would go to this particular data frame. This is how we can go ahead and split the data into two parts depending upon the requirement of your project. Do you remember whether your data frames are immutable or mutable? I must be kidding, right? You already by this time know data frames are definitely immutable. If the data frames are immutable, we will not be able to append the rows or change the data frames. That is what immutability means. Once we create a data frame, we will not be able to append any rows to that, we will not be able to modify that. But is there any way? Yes, there is a workaround. Even though it is not used very often, but there is a workaround. If you want to append to a data frame, you can use a union. What you can do is you can use a union. You can union the original data frame along with the new data frame. What it is essentially doing is it is concatenating the two data frames based on particular condition. The resultant data frame would have a rows which are matching that condition would be appended into the original data frame. That is how you are trying to go for a workaround to append the rows into a data frame. One very important thing, if you want to union two data frames, you need to ensure that you have a same schema. Schema should be same, otherwise it doesn't make sense. We will not be able to union two data frames. The way you can union the two data frames is, this is the first data frame, this is the second one. So you are trying to union this data frame with this data frame. And as I said, you are trying to provide couple of conditions here. One condition is where count is equal to 1. That means that this is the name of the column. Wherever the column values are equivalent to 1, that is one condition. The second condition is where origin country name should not be equivalent to United States. Whichever the rows in a new data frame satisfy both of these conditions, those rows will be appended into original data frame. One more last thing is, let us say you are trying to work with the data frame. What happens is, you don't want to see all the rows of a data frame. You want to limit what you want to see. That you can do by a limit method. In this case, we are seeing a data frame name, we are using order by, and expression we are using a count in a descending order, and we are using a limit method to see only 6 rows to be extracted from that particular data frame. Thank you. We will see the practicals and ensure that as and when you are seeing the practicals, you are practicing as well.
Coming to the random samples, we understood that we need to provide the seed value with replacement value fraction and try to take the samples. How do we do it? Let us see it. First and foremost thing is, what we got to remember is, we are trying to take a sample from what? You can just think of, we are trying to take a sample from the data frame. So now here in this case, we are trying to take a sample from a data frame. So in this case, there are 256 records. Out of this, we want to sample something. That is what is the requirement now. Now, how do we do it? First and foremost thing is, we got to define all these values like seed value. So seed value is nothing but, if we really want to sample from a data, algorithm need to start with some value, right? That is what is the seed value. Let us say it is a 5 now. The second thing is, we have to define with replacement yes or no. Means when you say with replacement false, no, we are not trying to replace them. Then fraction, out of the total number of records, how much of the records you want. In this case, we'll go with 0.25. Now once we are done, all we have to do is df flight, that is the data frame where we are trying to get the data from, and then sample, then go on providing all this way with replacement, we have to provide the fraction, then the seed value. That's it. There you can count this. How do you know? So okay, let us try executing this. Let me go ahead and assign the values for all these variables. Done. Now let us go and take a sample from this data frame. This is the data frame. Yes. So since we are trying to get around 25% of the this one, so we got around 71. While trying to sample, one more thing we can say is dflight and say sample and assign this whole thing to that. Okay, let us say this is the thing and assign this to the new data frame. Then all these sample records would get into the new data frame. If you go and check now, copy and paste. So let us take some 10 values from here around all this. Okay, if you go and count records in this data frame, it would be 71. This is how you will sample the data. Now that we understood how do we sample the data, next thing is random split. That is what we discussed, right? So how do we split a whole data frame into two data frames? Here we are providing 0.25 and 0.75. So this is needed while we are trying to work with machine learning, where we are trying to split the whole data into training set and testing set. Let us see how do we do this. Dflight is a random split. Then we have to say dflight. We have to get the random split is the method function we are using, and then we can specify how much percentage you want in the one and how much the rest of it will be. See, if you are providing 0.25, you have to provide 0.75. If you're providing 0.3 here, you have to provide a 0.7 here. Then after that, we have to provide the seed value also. We have already defined the seed. Let's do the same thing here. This is done. Now, how do we know what has been done here? The way you can access it here is very, very simple. Whatever the name of the data frame you have provided, right? In the data frame, it will be assigned. So let us say if you go on 0, then that show, you'll get to see the values. That is one thing. It is only showing one. So now rather than showing only, we'll try to count it. So let us get to know how many are there. So around 71, because we are trying to take 25% of the whole data frame. Now, if you go and check the count, the next one, you'll have 185 values. Okay, like this, whatever the data frame what you have, you can split them into random way for a machine learning purposes, as a training set, as a testing set. Now that we have seen the random split, the next one is appending the records into the data frame. This is a kind of a hack, right? I mean, ideally we thought it is immutable. The data frame is immutable. Somehow we have find a hack to go ahead and add the rows into the data frame. Try to append the rows into the data frame. Let's go ahead and create one more data frame so that we can use the data frame to union with the our dflight data frame. First thing is I will go ahead and create a schema. You can create a schema by using struct type, struct field, and all those things. Or one more way, if you already know the data frame to which you are trying to append the rows, what you can do is you can say dflight. In this case, dflight is the data frame schema. That is what you can do. And then what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and create some rows. So I'll say 2 rows is equal to, then open a square brace, instantiate a row object, and you can give country name. The country name can be Japan. The second name can be anything, just say Croatia. And then we have, let us say 5. Give a comma, then row, then India, then UK, then go ahead and say 1. This is how we have created a 2 rows. So then one more important thing is whenever you want to use these rows and try to create a one more data frame by using a create data frame method, what you have to do is if the row is more than one, you have to parallelize them. The way you can parallelize is very simple. Spark context, to call a function parallelize and then give the rows. Here in this case, 2 rows. That's it. This is how you parallel. Let's try to execute this first. Schema. Got the schema. Then let's go ahead and get the 2 rows. Remember, if you have not imported a row here, you have to import that. I already done that. It should work. Okay. Now I'm parallelizing these rows. I did that. Now let's go ahead and create another data frame. So let us name it as another data frame itself. Okay. Another DF. And then all you have to do is Spark. And we have already seen create data frame, take the parallelized rows and provide the schema. That's it. You have created a one more data frame by using these 2 rows. Let's go ahead and execute this. So let us see this data frame. df.show. We should have 2 rows here. Yes, we do have. Wonderful. So now that we have a one original data frame, our df flight. And we have another data frame called another df. And we'll try to use a union between these 2 data frames. Like first df flight and union. And then we have to provide another df. So let's try to provide some couple of conditions here. We'll say count is equal to 1. This is what. Okay. So then let us provide one more condition here. Okay. Where column and origin country name is not equal to United States. This is one more condition. Then we'll go ahead and show this. Okay, let's go ahead and execute this. We are trying to do 2 things here. We are trying to see how we can perform a union between the 2 data frames. In the process, how we can add the or append the rows from one data frame to another data frame. Let's go ahead and execute this. There you go. This row is from another data frame. Let me show that to you guys. This row has satisfied both these conditions where count is equal to 1 and where origin country name is not equivalent to United States. That is the reason this has happened. So this is how you append the row into the another data frame by using a union function. Wonderful. The last thing what we'll say is when you create a data frame, sometimes what happens is you want to see only some of the rows. The way you can do it is by using a limit function. Df flight and you can say limit only 5 records. Anyway, what is happening is we are extracting only few rows from a data frame here. Let me go ahead and do this. Okay, we are limiting. And one more thing what we can do here is we can use a limit function within the expression also. Assuming that you have a order by function here, and within order by you are trying to use a expr, and so let us do this. Order by expr function would be count in a descending order. And then this one you want to limit the results to only 5. This also we can do. Let us go and execute this. Let me check df flight order by expr. Yes, this should work. There you go. You can use the limit function along with the other expression also, other conditions also. We completed the hands-on. Do practice without fail. Thank you.